Welcome to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, where you can learn and be inspired by real-world examples of how technology is transforming businesses and reshaping industries in a language everyone can understand. Here is your host, Neil C. Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast. Now, a big hello to Frank in the US who said, Neil, random question. What is your favourite website? Where do you spend most of your time when not writing and recording podcasts? Well, let me tell you, Frank, this will mean nothing to you if you're located in the US. But for me personally, where I spend most of my time buying things that I want but don't really need is a site called Hot UK Deals. If we've got any Brits listening to this podcast who start their day and finish their day looking on Hot UK Deals for the latest bargains, that is my weakness. Closely followed by Holiday Pirates for cheap flights. And the highlight of my week is the Travel Zoo email. So yes, really, those are my areas of weakness. I'm a sucker for a good bargain. And for those of you that don't know as well, I used to help run a gaming website called This Is My Joystick. And I think that's where my love of bargains came from, because rather than pay $50, $60 for a game, I had a little section called Neil's Deals where I would track them down for about 50% cheaper than that. So yeah, Neil's Deals. So thank you, Frank, for your question, but we're not here to talk about all that. We've got a great show lined up. And today, I want to dedicate today's episode to startup founders out there. And I want to learn more, because if you are a startup founder and you're looking for investment from a VC, how do you secure the attention of that VC? How do you get on their radar, especially in a world now where opening pitches are very often done online rather than in person? How do you get around that? How do you know what the VC is looking for in your tech company? What trends are they following? Well, these are just a few of the things that I want to talk about today. And I've invited Andrew Gershfeld from Flint Capital onto the podcast. And he's going to be talking about how the pandemic has changed the venture market. And we'll explore some of the main ideas of startups and trends that were born after the pandemic, how they've accelerated as we head into a post-pandemic world. And if you've already got funding, I also want to learn how you can scale from there to becoming a tech unicorn. We've got a lot to get through, so buckle up and hold on tight as I beam your ears all the way to Boston, where Andrew Gershfeld will share his story, offer invaluable advice to startup founders, and maybe we can all learn a thing or two along the way too. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
I'm Andrew Gershfeld, general partner at Flint Capital. I'm an entrepreneur who turned to be a VC, and I'm over 12 years in this business, of which 7 years I've been with Flint Capital, a Boston-based firm that helps immigrant founders from Israel, Europe, and other geos access the US market and scale their business.
And this is the part of the podcast where I always ask my guests, what's their origin story? How did you get here? And I've got a feeling that there's going to be quite a big origin story for you here. So can you tell me a little bit more about your background and also where your passion for tech came from and what put you on this path?
Oh, yeah, sure. The fact is that I never intended to be a VC. My dream was to become a scientist. I've got a master's degree in physics and spent some time researching fancy stuff like laser optics, acoustics, crystals properties. I turned to business very surprisingly. Our research team decided to pivot and create a commercial application to one of the things we've created. I was the most junior guy in the lab and as a result, less valuable. So the team spared my time on creating business plan, pitching the investors, fundraising, and to the great surprise of everyone, and me included, I succeeded and returned with a term sheet. Unfortunately, that moment, the global recession of 2007 have prevented us from making a good deal. But from that moment, my career in business begins. I was hungry to anything related to business. I spent 3 years in management consulting. There, working in management consulting, I spotted the opportunity to launch my own venture, a Groupon clone. It was a Groupon hype of 2010. I sold it very quickly and then joined the VC side. Was very intrigued by how VC capital could help entrepreneurs scale up quickly and achieve greater results than bootstrapping. First, I was a high investment manager, but later joined forces with my current partners to run our own VC shop, Flint Capital. And here we are, managing multiple funds and about $1 billion of US dollars in assets.
Awesome. And that brings us bang up to date. So that path led you to Flint Capital, which, as you said, is a Boston-based international venture fund. But can you tell me a bit more about that and the kind of industries that you're investing in right now?
Well, our investment thesis is about three things.
Yeah.
First, we think that world borders for talent don't exist anymore. Nowadays, it doesn't matter where you start your business. You can compete globally from everywhere. And we see it through the percentage of tech companies in the US that are created by immigrants, top tech companies, I say. 40% of them are having immigrant founders. Second, we see that enterprise SaaS is one of the largest and fastest growing markets in IT. It has many applications like IT infrastructure, cloud computing, health tech, fintech, education. These are long-term growing markets. And third, we are tech founders ourselves. Our investors and our advisors are tech founders of the top software companies in the world. Some of them are public on NASDAQ. So we've been there and done that, and we give that expertise available to all our portfolio companies. So with those three things, we can narrow down the scope of Flint Capital and say that it is good for international founders, enterprise SaaS, IT infrastructure, cloud, health tech, fintech, and education, from founders to founders in the US market.
And so much has changed in the last 2 years. There seems to be a lot of movement in the world of healthcare and health tech. So, do you think there's an opportunity for health tech startups at the moment to disrupt the traditional approach to the healthcare system? And if you do think that there's a lot of excitement in that area, are there any particular areas that you're seeing movement in?
Oh yeah, we've been working in the health tech space for a long time. We've been looking at the different angles and have identified a number of trends that I think that are transforming health industry fundamentally. Our health vision is that first of all, health tech is going to be deeply integrated into our everyday life. It will start to penetrate and merge with our lifestyle, not just when we are talking, when we are sleeping, when we are running, or when we are working, whatever we do. So it would be very deeply connected with our lifestyle. The second trend and the second element of the vision is that the path, how the patient came to a certain condition or certain state, combined with personalization, will be very accurately taken into the account when implementing the treatment. That would be enabled by the data, by the data that was collected through the lifestyle of us as people. It would be enabled by how we operate and how widely available and how accurate the data is. And together, all that data and all the trends that I mentioned will play a significant role in democratizing lots of healthcare and research. We see it right now when the technology enables less involvement of high-skilled professionals in different areas, but leaving more time for them to make right decisions, to analyze the pre-processed results, and to spend their valuable time helping more patients, making it cheaper for each of the patients. And of course, we think that the quality of care that has not been available before would become widely available due to augmentation of professionals with AI, due to more sophisticated tools that health tech is making available. A couple of examples, recent researches about X-ray, lung X-ray analysis by AI show that AI actually diagnose some conditions better than average doctor, average specialist in lung conditions. What it means that you actually get the expertise of top of the past specialist just by adding that AI layer to the decision-making process. So I think in the next maybe 100 years, preventing conditions will dominate the treating, and meaning the treating of existing ones. So we would identify very early what's going on wrong. We would transform with the data the decision-making process. We would be able to prevent lots of things that currently we face as a fact. And I think humanity would shift to modernizing the bodies in parallel with maintaining the bodies. So it's going to be an exciting century.
It really is. And before you came on the podcast today, knowing that you were in the world of venture capital and investing, etc., well, for any startup founders listening, I read that 90% of pitches are now being made online. So with that in mind, do you have any tips on how a startup founder can better pitch via something like a Zoom call or a Microsoft Teams call? Because I would imagine it's completely different to the old way of doing things.
Yeah. In May 2020, nearly everything moved online.
Yeah.
Investment pitches were among the first to do so. And unfortunately, it's impossible with this way of pitching. It's impossible for founders to, we call it read the room when pitching. It puts people in a severe disadvantage. At Flint, we listen around 1,500 online pitches a year. So I think there are a couple of tips that I definitely can summarize. The first one is that every good pitch starts before the pitch. So find the right intro. This statistically, it's our statistics and broader market statistics, the research by others. 85% of deals come by the introduction, and it sets the proper attitude and the proper relationship between the parties. The second thing is I would recommend to have, we call it teaser trailer. It's like a movie trailer, a short version of your presentation, not more than 10 slides, that speaks by itself and leaves investors wanting more. It's something that you can share without meeting or before meeting or through the intro source. It gives you the advantage of steadily building interest in your counterparty. The third thing I would say is to practice passionate storytelling to keep listeners' attention. Even if you are an experienced online presenter, online pitching requires more powerful speaking and acting skills. So I think that even taking classes on speech or acting before a fundraiser is a good idea. And we've been working with many of our portfolio founders around that and hiring advisors for them in speech training for fundraising on the later rounds. Of course, getting a feedback from a fellow investor, with having a try run with a fellow investor would be of great help here. One thing that sometimes people don't pay attention to is the setup of Zoom call. So I highly recommend to be well prepared with the setup. It is not a college where you get humor points for broken video, interruptions, or things going not as planned. Such things may happen, but they should be despite your best efforts. So be sure that video, lighting, audio, background, internet connection, everything is working. What else? Staying authentic if something goes wrong is also very important. I can remember, the best pictures I can remember are those when people have showed their charisma in unexpected situation. I can give one example. One of the meetings that impressed me was with a founder who was an Israeli army pilot. And just before the investment committee, he sent us a photo of himself in a cockpit in a uniform flying above the skies with a text, "Sorry, we'll be 15 minutes late." Yeah, sure enough, 15 minutes later, he arrived in full uniform, cool and composed. And that created a memorable impression and showcased the charisma and character, and passed the message that the only thing that can prevent me from being with you, my investors, is my duty. So that is the message you as an investor, you are happy to hear, because the person did his duty first, and the founder is someone whose duty is his business. That's an amazing thing. A couple of other advices could be, I would say, invite only team members that are actively participating. If one comes, one should talk. That's the rule of thumb. And try to stand out with your ideas, not with your pitch presentation. I don't think that current environments like Zoom pitching is a good setup for flashy animations, experimental video cards. It usually comes as a liability rather than a great impression. I think that's pretty much it. Maybe one more thing that is underestimated nowadays among younger generation. I would say that it's better to choose phone calls over emails when you are talking to someone in current times, because it's common for founders, especially tech-centered ones, to be a little bit more introverted and prefer a text or email exchange. But nowadays, our avenues for making a great impression or building a relationship are limited. So every interaction counts. And that's I encourage to talk. Talk is a very powerful element of building the trust and moving things further. I think that's this overall the picture, and some summary of what we have seen in good pitches and building relationships with our portfolio founders.
So many great tips in that. I love the concept of the teaser trailer as well, and I think so much that could help people out there. And for those startup founders listening that are a little bit further along, maybe they've already got VC funding, can you offer any insights on how startups can go from that world to becoming unicorns, and how venture funds can help to build a successful scale like that?
Well, each unicorn is unique.
Yeah.
But has been an investor in 3 unicorns by now, and seen several more growing very closely from scratch. I can confirm that there are similarities. There are some similarities that we can point out. many of the unicorns start in the market niches that are small, but will become dominant over the market in future. Such market transformation gives them a lot of tailwind. And that is a very powerful tailwind. We believe that the strategy, when you pick a very tiny niche and try to win that niche, and through the time use the power of that niche growing to become the market leader, is a very powerful concept. And we've seen it along many startups that are currently large companies. The other factor that is very relevant for enterprise SaaS is that to build a successful company, you need a product, not the best one, but the one that is 10x better and 10x cheaper than the current immediate alternative. That sets a very powerful differentiating proposition for your product. You don't need to be the best product. You need to be very different in an aspect of quality, values that you deliver, and the price. Price sometimes consists of effort, not just the money, but the effort to implement, effort to deploy, effort to roll out, effort to manage, effort to own. And of course, you need to focus on building the sales and marketing. Great companies, they always come with some kind of innovation in their business model, in sales or marketing or any other aspect of the business model. That will become a factor to accelerate your business, even to not just unicorn size, but decacorn size, the business model innovation. So among those three elements, I think investors are most instrumental with the third one. Because with the market and with a niche selection and with the problem, we usually, as investors, are more receptive. It's where we meet the founder. It's where the founder pitches us, but it's his idea. It is where he is targeting. We usually do not have a lot of impact on that. Regarding the product features and how it could be differentiated and how it could achieve that 10x better, 10x cheaper combination, it is also usually from the founder's perspective, lessons learned, his previous experience, his domain knowledge, and etc., and his team, how they see the product. Investors here can be a little bit more instrumental and can bring their expertise, but they are the best in building businesses. So a greater support and a greater advice, I think, founders usually get from the investors around composing the business model for their business, building sales and marketing.
Fantastic. And we've talked about how you're helping startups adjust to the changing world, but I'm curious, for yourselves, how has the arrival of the pandemic and now going into a post-pandemic world, how has that changed the venture market from what you've seen?
For us, it didn't change that much. We at the firm worked remotely long before the pandemic started. So it brought no disruption to any of our processes. On the contrary, we saw greater trust into online meetings versus offline, and that saved us a lot of hours that we made available for additional support of our portfolio companies. In this case, I would say that pandemic was not the dominant factor of our operations in the last 2 or 3 years.
And what excites you about where all this is heading? Because it feels like the world is moving at 1,000,000 miles an hour now, but some people are afraid, some people are cautious, some people are excited. But what excites you about where everything's going?
Oh, I'm very excited.
Yeah.
I'm to be a VC, you need to be an optimist. Look, when I first encountered computer, his hard drive was on a magnetic tape. Now, my son don't even know what magnetic tape is used for. If you give him a cassette and a pencil, he doesn't know how one relates to the other. And to our listeners, if they don't know, just Google it. It's fun. Now we are at 5G. Number of data points we know about the world is growing exponentially. The chip's power is doubling every 2 years. Thermonuclear fusion, the cheapest way of energy, is soon to arrive. I think we have a chance to solve lots of problems for humankind and our planet with that resource. I think we just need to be more careful not to destroy it a little bit faster. But I'm very optimistic.
And what about anybody listening that wants to get on your radar? Maybe they're a startup founder. What is the best way of doing that? Are there certain things that you're looking for, and how can they improve their chances of securing that meetup or Zoom call?
We are very open to connect with everyone in enterprise SaaS field, DevOps, health tech, fintech, cybersecurity. Of course, direct cold email or message could work. But the best outcome, as I mentioned before, would be if it comes through the intro. Yeah. Ideally through our portfolio founder. Because our founders' emails is the first thing I answer when I open my my computer in the morning. Calls from our founders we take anytime 24/7. So I think the best way to connect would be to find the proper intro through our portfolio founders. And we have more than 60 companies in our portfolio across the globe, Europe, Israel, United States. I think in every major location, you can find a good reference to Flint Capital.
And I always ask my guests to leave everyone listening with a personal touch of inspiration by sharing either a book that has inspired them or a go-to song that they turn to get their head in the zone, or just something that's important to them. What will you leave us with today? And is there a story to accompany your choice?
Oh yeah, I was following the list that your guests are adding to,
yeah,
and I was especially delighted to see. I can vouch for every book there in that list, and was especially delighted to see Viktor Frankl book there because it touched me so deeply too. I would recommend The Go-Giver by Bob Burg. It is very short, but has very powerful idea of putting others' interests first and adding value to their life. I think that is an essential idea for being a VC. And the fun fact here that my grandma gave it to me when I started as a VC, and it has so much impressed me. And at that moment, my to-be wife, with the shortness and simplicity that it became our wedding gift to the guests. So I highly recommend that book for everyone who is going to pursue their VC career or wants to contribute to better world around us.
What a great choice. I'll add that to our Amazon wish list. And for anyone listening that just wants to find out more information about any of the topics we've discussed today, or contact a member of your team, or just find out more information about the work that you're doing, what's the best starting point for everything?
Always, you can find Andrew Gershfeld in LinkedIn and direct message. or our website is flintcap.com, and follow us on Twitter, FlintVC.
Excellent. Well, I'll add all those links to the show notes so people can find you all nice and easily. Love chatting with you today. I think we covered a lot there, from health tech startups disrupting the healthcare system, insights around how startups become unicorns and how venture funds can help them successfully scale, and so many great golden tips there on how to get on your radar and to improve their pitches too. But more than anything, just thank you for coming on, talking about all that, sharing your insights and sharing your personal story. Thank you.
Thank you for hosting.
So if we have any other venture capitalists listening to this podcast, maybe you've been shouting down your headphones, no, why didn't you talk about this? Why did you not mention this point? And equally, if you're a startup founder that think we completely missed some points, or you disagree with anything, or you've got anything to add, whichever side of the fence you're on, I invite you to share your feedback, your experiences with me. I'll share them on a future episode. I'll even invite you to come on here and sit with me, and we'll discuss your side, your experiences too. And you can do that by simply just sending me an email, techblogwriter@outlook.com, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, @Neil C. Hughes. Nice and easy, but don't just hit connect or follow. Send me a message. Let me know you listen to the podcast, and we'll keep this conversation going. And I hope the non-startup founders and venture capitalists listening today, I hope you learned something too. I invite everybody to join me again tomorrow. We'll do it all again. We've got another topic lined up for you. But spring is here. Time to soak up some vitamin D. So I'm going to get away from my computer screen and stock up on some of that liquid sunshine. So thank you for listening as always. And until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thank you for listening to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast with Neil C. Hughes. Remember, technology works best when it brings people together.